For the past several days, Clarissa had been experiencing something she couldn't explain. She had seen strange movements out of the corner of her eye. She had dreamed of a beautiful girl she had never met. And yet, somehow, the girl felt familiar. It was as though she had known her forever. Clarissa had tried to dismiss it. Maybe she was tired. Maybe stress was getting to her. Maybe she was simply imagining things. But that night, she dreamed again. She found herself standing in a beautiful field filled with wildflowers. The sky was blue, the breeze was gentle, and there, kneeling among the flowers, was the girl. Clarissa stared at her. There was something different about her, something peaceful, something familiar. The girl looked up. Beautiful, aren't they? Clarissa looked at the flowers. They're just wildflowers. They grow everywhere. The girl smiled. That's what most people think. Then she began talking about how wildflowers grew without being planted or cultivated by human hands. How they trusted the rain, trusted the sun, trusted the soil, and somehow they survived. Clarissa listened. The girl's words seemed to reach a place inside her that nobody else could reach. Then the girl looked directly into her eyes. People are a lot like wildflowers. Clarissa frowned. How? Sometimes they find themselves in unfamiliar territory with only themselves to depend upon. Clarissa immediately understood that the conversation wasn't really about flowers. It was about her. She had been feeling alone, misunderstood, afraid. And then the girl said something that stopped her. They know that it isn't necessary to always have all the answers. They have faith and trust in a power greater than themselves. Clarissa stared at her. There was something about those words and those eyes that felt strangely familiar. Then she remembered. The girl. She had seen her before. Not just in this dream, in other moments, other dreams, other times when she had felt strangely comforted. Clarissa's eyes widened. Who are you? The girl smiled. I'm someone who has always been with you. Clarissa swallowed. What do you mean? The girl looked at her gently. You are never alone, the girl said. We are always there, ready to help, heal and care for you. Clarissa stared. What do you mean, we? You talk as if you're an angel too. The girl smiled. Would that surprise you very much? Clarissa hesitated. Maybe. Then something happened. Memories began rushing through her mind. The little girl she had seen, the strange dreams, the moments when she had somehow escaped danger, the feeling that someone had been watching over her. Suddenly, it all made sense. Angels. She had been protected all her life, and perhaps this girl really was one. Clarissa looked at her. Do you have a name? The girl smiled. Yes, Clarissa. A pause. My name is Grace. Clarissa woke suddenly. She sat upright in her bed. Her heart was racing. She looked around her room. Nothing. No girl, no field, no wildflowers. Just her bedroom. She whispered, Grace? Clarissa didn't know what to think. Was it a dream? Of course it was a dream. At least, that's what she wanted to believe. But the experience had felt too real. She remembered every word, every expression, every detail. And there was something else. She had actually felt peaceful, more peaceful than she had felt in weeks. Still, the idea of having a guardian angel seemed ridiculous. Clarissa picked up her phone. She almost called Ashley, then stopped. What would she say? Hey, Ashley, I think I have an angel named Grace following me around. Ashley would never let her live that down. Clarissa laughed nervously. People get committed for stuff like this. But the thought wouldn't leave her. Why shouldn't she have a guardian angel? She had heard stories about people experiencing angels. She had even read about something similar recently. So, why not her? At first, Grace was gentle. She appeared in Clarissa's dreams. She offered encouragement. She talked about fear, healing, faith, and learning to face the things that troubled her. Grace never tried to control Clarissa. She couldn't. God had given Clarissa free will, but Clarissa began to see Grace's presence differently. At first it was comforting. Then it became annoying, because Grace seemed to show up whenever Clarissa was about to do something questionable. And eventually Clarissa began to feel as though she had another parent, another person telling her what she should and shouldn't do. One day Clarissa finally said it. "I can feel you near me, Grace." She turned toward the unseen presence. "I suppose you disapprove of what I'm doing." Silence. Clarissa continued, "But I don't care. This is my life." Then came the words that would change everything. "I'll decide how I live it." Grace understood immediately. Clarissa was not simply resisting her parents. She was resisting guidance itself. Grace knew what Clarissa didn't. A dangerous decision was approaching, and Grace could already see where it could lead, but she could not force Clarissa to change her mind. The next morning, Clarissa felt different. She knew Grace was there, and strangely, that made her feel both safer and more uncomfortable, because now she knew someone was watching. Clarissa wasn't sure she liked that. She grabbed her backpack and headed toward school. "Come on, Grace." She paused, then added sarcastically, "It's time to go to school." She almost laughed. She couldn't believe she was talking to an invisible angel. But underneath the humor, there was resistance. Clarissa didn't want another person telling her what to do. She already had a mother who seemed to criticize everything, teachers who constantly reminded her about her grades, friends who thought they knew what was best for her. She didn't need an angel doing the same thing. At school, she saw Monica. Monica was older, confident, popular, and she had something Clarissa wanted: a way to attend the upcoming Fairfield football game without riding the school bus. The school provided transportation, but the bus meant chaperones, rules, restrictions. Monica had another option: her car. Clarissa's eyes lit up, and without hesitating, she said, "Monica, can I ride with you to the Fairfield game?" "Really?" Monica smiled. "Sure, you can ride with us." Clarissa was thrilled. This wasn't just about a football game. To Clarissa, it represented independence. She was almost 16. She wanted to make her own decisions. She didn't want to be treated like a little child. And for a moment, she forgot every warning she had ever received. But Grace hadn't forgotten. From beyond the veil, Grace watched the conversation. She immediately recognized the danger. She knew that Clarissa had just stepped onto a path that could lead somewhere very different from where she intended to go. Grace could intervene, but should she? That was the dilemma. Clarissa had free will, and Grace knew that sometimes a guardian must allow the person she protects to make a choice. Even when she knows the choice could be wrong, Grace could only hope Clarissa would reconsider. Later, Kevin confronted Clarissa. He wasn't trying to control her. He was worried. "Something doesn't feel right about this." Clarissa became defensive. "Why does everybody think I can't take care of myself?" Kevin tried again. "I'm not saying you can't." "Then what's the problem?" Kevin looked at her sternly. You don't know these people that well. Clarissa rolled her eyes. They're my friends. Just be careful, he warned. That word irritated her. Careful. Everyone kept telling her to be careful. She was tired of it. She wanted to prove she could handle herself. She wanted to take a risk. And finally she said the words that would change everything. I'm old enough to make my own decisions. She walked away. Kevin watched her go, and somewhere nearby, Grace heard every word. She knew what Clarissa didn't. Her decision had just opened a doorway that could lead to consequences neither of them could yet see. Grace had been assigned to protect Clarissa, but now she was faced the greatest challenge of her assignment. How do you protect someone who believes she doesn't need protection? She could see the path Clarissa was choosing, but there was a boundary even an angel could not cross. Free will. Grace could warn, she could guide, she could protect, but she could not live Clarissa's life. Clarissa had to choose, and Clarissa chose to go. Later, as the car pulled away, Grace watched from the unseen realm. This was no longer simply about teenage rebellion. Something darker was at work, and Grace knew she would have to act quickly to save Clarissa from the danger awaiting. Clarissa left with Monica and the others. Grace watched. She knew what was coming. She could see beyond the present. She could see possibilities, and one possibility terrified her. The blue Toyota moved farther away from the school. Clarissa sat in the back seat, excited at first. She believed she had finally escaped everyone's expectations, but that excitement didn't last. Something about the young man sitting beside her made her uncomfortable. His name was Jason. He was older, more aggressive, and increasingly interested in Clarissa. At first, his behavior seemed like harmless flirting. Then it changed. He moved closer. Clarissa pushed him away. He ignored her. She told him to stop. He became angry. Suddenly, the exciting adventure she had imagined felt like a trap. She looked toward the front of the vehicle. Monica was driving. The others were laughing. No one seemed to understand what was happening in the back seat. Clarissa realized something terrifying. She had placed herself in a situation she couldn't easily escape. For the first time, she understood what Kevin had been trying to tell her. Not every opportunity is an opportunity from God. Some doors look attractive because we haven't yet seen what is waiting on the other side. Grace had been watching. She knew exactly what was happening inside the car. And now, she moved, not with fear, not with hesitation, with authority. Grace entered the spiritual realm surrounding the vehicle. She saw the dark presence attached to one of the passengers, Lexor, a spirit of perversion. Grace reached into the unseen realm and confronted him. This was no longer a gentle whisper. This was protection. She seized the dark spirit and forced it away from the young man it had influenced. For the first time in the story, Grace was no longer simply standing beside Clarissa. She was fighting for her. She knew the rules of the spiritual realm. She knew that darkness could not simply take control without permission. But she also knew that when the opportunity came, she had authority to act. Grace looked toward Clarissa. The girl turned her head, almost as though she could feel someone watching her. Grace spoke directly into her spirit. I am here. I am with you. Clarissa couldn't see her, but somehow she felt something, a presence, a moment of peace, a reminder that she was not completely alone. Grace had done her part, but Clarissa still had a choice to make, and the danger wasn't over. But removing one spiritual attack didn't eliminate every threat. Clarissa was still in the car, and Jason was still there. Suddenly, Clarissa understood. She had made a terrible mistake. She wanted out, but she couldn't simply jump from a moving car. So she waited. She watched. She planned. When they arrived at the Fairfield Stadium, she escaped. She ran into a restroom, locked the door, and finally, she prayed, "God, please help me." But Jason found her. He entered the doorway. Clarissa backed away. There was nowhere to go. Just as he grabbed for her, she screamed, "Help me!" Then the door opened. A huge maintenance worker appeared. His voice thundered across the room. "What are you doing in here?" Jason froze. "Let that girl go." Jason ran. Clarissa stood trembling. The man turned toward her. "Help is on the way." Clarissa stared after him. Something inside her knew. She whispered, "Thank you, Grace." But Clarissa didn't yet understand that this was only the beginning. Clarissa ran outside, and there they were. Kevin, Ashley, safe, familiar, home. Kevin immediately knew something had happened. When he saw Jason, anger took over. He confronted him. "Stay away from Clarissa," he said in a low, threatening voice. Jason's eyes hardened. Kevin turned away. Then Jason reached for the knife he had hidden in his jacket. One movement, one decision, one terrible moment. Without hesitation, he plunged the knife into Kevin's back. Kevin fell. Clarissa screamed, "Kevin!" She rushed to him. Blood covered his shirt. She pressed her hands against the wound. "Please, God, help him!" Sirens approached. Within minutes, paramedics rushed to them. Clarissa collapsed into Ashley's arms. For the first time, she wasn't trying to prove anything. She wasn't trying to be independent. She wasn't trying to appear grown. She was simply a frightened 15-year-old girl who finally understood how dangerous one bad decision could become. And for Clarissa, the world seemed to stop. She had wanted to prove she could take care of herself. Now, someone she loved was lying injured because of the choices she had made. Tess and Caleb arrived. For once, there was no argument, no lecture, no punishment. Only a mother holding her frightened daughter, and a father trying to understand what had happened. Grace watched. She had protected Clarissa from one danger, but she could not erase every consequence of human choice. And perhaps that was the hardest lesson of all. At the hospital, they waited. Finally, the doctor appeared. Kevin would survive. The wound was serious, but thankfully, no major organs had been damaged. Clarissa cried, not because she was afraid for herself, because Kevin had almost died, and she knew why he had been there. He had been trying to protect her. The ride home was quiet. Tess didn't lecture. Clarissa didn't argue. Finally, Clarissa spoke. "I should have listened." Tess looked at her. Clarissa continued. "I thought I had something to prove." Her voice broke. "I thought being grown meant I didn't need anybody." She lowered her head. "But I was wrong." That night, Clarissa went upstairs. She prayed. Then she whispered the words she had been afraid to say. "Grace." "Nothing. Are you there?" A moment passed. Then Clarissa closed her eyes. "Thank you." That night, Grace entered Clarissa's dream. The field was there again, the wildflowers, the gentle breeze, the peaceful sky. Clarissa saw Grace, but this time, she wasn't afraid. "Why didn't you stop me?" Grace looked at her. "I warned you," she said. Clarissa looked at her sadly and said, "But I didn't listen." "No." "Then why didn't you just make me stay?" Grace smiled gently. "Because that wasn't my decision to make." Clarissa understood. "Free will," she said quietly. Grace nodded. You have the right to choose your path. But you still protected me. Yes, she answered. Why? Asked Clarissa. Grace stepped closer. Because protection doesn't always mean preventing every consequence. Clarissa listened. Sometimes protection means helping you survive the consequences. That statement stayed with her. Grace continued. You will make mistakes in your life, Clarissa. Some will hurt. Some will hurt people you love. But none of them have to define who you become. Clarissa looked down. I thought you were here to keep bad things from happening. Grace smiled. I am here to help you become who God created you to be. Clarissa finally understood. Grace wasn't another parent. She wasn't a voice trying to control her. She wasn't there to make every decision for her. She was there to guide, to warn, to protect, and when necessary, to fight. Clarissa thought about everything that had happened, the dreams, the warnings, the strange feelings, the moments when Grace had tried to redirect her, and finally, the moment Grace had stepped into the battle. Clarissa looked at her. You really have been with me all this time. Grace smiled. Always. Clarissa took a deep breath. I guess I wasn't as alone as I thought. No, Grace said, you never were. And that was the beginning of something new. Clarissa had discovered that having a guardian angel didn't mean she would never experience trouble. It meant she would never have to face it completely alone. She had learned that freedom without wisdom could become dangerous, that appearances could deceive, that warnings shouldn't always be ignored. And perhaps most importantly, she learned that God's protection doesn't always look the way we expect. Sometimes it comes as a warning, sometimes as a person, sometimes as an unexpected escape, and sometimes it comes as grace. Clarissa closed her eyes, and for the first time, she wasn't asking whether grace was real. She knew. She whispered, "Thank you, God, for your grace." Maybe there's a lesson here for all of us. There are moments when we want God to let us make our own choices. We want independence. We want control. We want to say, "This is my life." But freedom doesn't eliminate consequences. And making our own choices doesn't mean we have to reject God's guidance. Sometimes the warning you're trying to escape is the very thing that is trying to protect you. So when something inside you says, "Stop, wait, think again," don't ignore it too quickly, because you never know who may be standing in the gap, guarding you, guiding you, and reminding you you are never alone. This ends our story of a challenge to grace. If it touched a place in your heart, please share it with someone who needs to learn of God's grace. Then share and subscribe to Renewed Mind 369. Leave a comment letting us know if you enjoyed our story. Thank you for watching and be blessed.